What is up, everybody? We're back with our part 2, going over every single game in week 3 of the fantasy football NFL season. It's been a crazy year to start. Kylan Granson is tight end 9, tight end 8 to start the year in half PPR. Kylan Granson, and just in case, because I think a lot of you might not even know, he's on the Colts, just in case you were wondering. He is tight end 8, which is crazy. Brian, how are your fantasy teams doing overall?
My awesome first ranked dynasty team is in the toilet right now. I'm 0-4 because we play a game against league median. But, I have AJ Brown and Jamar Chase on there and, a bunch of other guys that just haven't shown up yet. So not nervous there yet, but it's starting to worry me. Then I'm kind of all over the place. My other couple of leagues, like I'm 2-0, and I think the other one I'm 2-2 or something like that. Yeah, kind of all over the place. I think that's kind of been the theme, right? Like we've kind of mentioned it a few times. Like stuff's just wacky right now. So hopefully it'll settle down a little. I don't know. I feel like it kind of was like this last year too. Like I remember you saying when we were trying to do pick'ems like for weeklies, and it was just like, dude, like it's so hard because like we think we know what should happen, and it's like nothing like that is happening. Like,
it was like in a weird way, it was like kind of the people that were not as tuned in terms of the pick'em league, not as tuned into football and listening to everyone and fantasy stuff and following it, kind of did better because they were like buying into Jets won last week, I'll pick them again, and then like Jets and Giants were both good. So yeah, it was like a weird thing. There's one of my dynasty orphan teams who's just like, it's god awful. I started like Marvin Jones and Trey Palmer week 1, and I won my week 1 matchup. Like Marvin Jones was he was kind of like my best receiver going into the league, at least most like proven. But now I have Puka on that team, which has helped. But it was just like, how did this freaking team, who I'm kind of trying to tank, but I can't really tank, and how do they win? Yeah, that's just fantasy football in a nutshell. But we're going to get into it, kind of going over each game. And, we're talking about kind of the fringe guys, the borderline guys. We're not going to be talking about the Justin Jeffersons and Lamar Jacksons of the world on who to start. But, those other guys that are maybe you're deciding between your wide receiver 3 and flex spots and all that. We do all our rankings on half PPR. And so you can kind of apply it to whatever standard or PPR, whatever you play. We're starting off with a banger. I think the lowest over-under of the week. Patriots at Jets at 36.5. How are these teams going to score? Patriots are favored by -2.5. Yeah, gross. This is a gross game. On the Patriots side, we'll just say Hunter Henry is basically a must start.
Yep.
I think if I had to put money besides Kelsey, Andrews, and Hawkinson, if I had to put money on another tight end to finish top 5, sorry, I think I'd put it on Hunter Henry. I really would. He's going to be hugely involved into this on this team. And we talked about it when me and Dad are breaking down all the teams, kind of like, why is Hunter Henry not being drafted, but Mike Gesicki is? Like, this is weird. Hunter Henry has proven he's been a top 10 guy before. And yeah, I think I'd put money on him being top 5 over maybe any other tight end besides the 3 I mentioned. You're not starting Mac Jones. I'm avoiding all these receivers. It comes down to, Ramondre Stevenson is like a must start, right? Is there any question really?
No, you got to start him.
Yeah. Bad matchup. He's probably not going to do very well if I had to guess. But you drafted him 2nd, 3rd, maybe 4th round if you got lucky. He's been a RB15 to start the year. He's put up double-digit points both weeks. Like, he's just going to be a solid 12 to 15-point guy, I think, all year long. So, and that's going to be top 15 running back easy. So, I don't know. Is there any guys? Are we missing anyone on this Patriots team? Like, any receivers? Like, if you had to start one, Devontae Parker, Juju, Kendrick Bourne.
It's funny because I was just pulling up their depth charts. It's like, who do they even have again? It's like, yeah, that's right. Probably Kendrick Bourne. Honestly, I haven't really paid attention very much. I think he a hot waiver wire pickup like the first week or something because he had a good week.
Yeah. He had a really good week 1, and he was playing like 100% of the snaps. And I made a video about this, but like it doesn't matter how good or bad you are. If you're a tight end or receiver that's out there 80% or more, it's almost impossible for you to not put up like for wide receivers. I think there was like out of 100 in the last 5 years, out of 100 receivers, I think it was 99 to be exact, receivers that had started 80% or more of their team's snaps. I think only like 10 of them failed to get less than double-digit PPR points. So it was like almost a guarantee. And I know 10 points in PPR is not like amazing, but I'm sure it can get you by on heavy bye weeks. So yeah, Kendrick Bourne was kind of looking like, oh, he could be good. And then Devontae Parker came back, and Kendrick Bourne played like 60% of the snaps. So it should avoid them all. But he did have the most targets still, which is something to note. He had like 9 targets. So he's had 20 targets over the first 2 weeks. So it's hard to ignore that. I'd say he's worthy of a bench spot in a lot of, deeper leagues. Not even deeper leagues, but like I'd say a majority of 12-team leagues, he's probably worth a bench spot at least one more week, because you can't deny averaging 10 targets a game. But yeah, you don't start any of these guys.
No.
And then, that's kind of it. It's Hunter Henry and Ramondre Stevenson for that team. And then the Jets. God, what do we do?
We're starting Garrett Wilson still. Like, we have to, I think. Like, especially in 3-receiver league. Like, man, like you have to start him. But it's like, I mean, he's gotten a touchdown each week. So there's some. We know the Jets can score, but it's tough. It's a bummer.
So let's say, because I agree, like 12 teams, 3 wide receivers, he's probably going to be a starter. But let's just say you picked up Nico Collins, or you picked up Tutu Atwell, or you picked up Josh Reynolds. Are you starting any of those 3 guys over Wilson against the Patriots? Not the best.
I'll start Nico Collins. Not the other 2 guys, not Tutu, not Reynolds.
Let's say we get another week of what Tutu's done the first 2 weeks, and what Reynolds done, and Garrett Wilson has a stinker where he doesn't get a 50-yard touchdown because he's that good.
I think I would
catches for 50 yards.
I think I would move Tutu up. I would move Tutu up at that point. Yeah, it's if he continues to get disgusting. Yeah, I know, right? What the hell are we talking about? Oh, I know. God, move on. No, what I would start Zay Flowers over him, DJ Moore, Pittman, Hopkins. Oh man, yeah. I mean, it's tough. I guess I can keep going.
Tutu's the wide receiver 20, and he doesn't have a touchdown yet. So like. That's pretty good. So yeah, if they both, Josh Reynolds and Tutu, have a weeks like this, and then we see another 2-catch game for Garrett Wilson, and it doesn't turn into a 50-yard touchdown, I'm probably starting those guys over Garrett Wilson. Like, as crazy as it sounds, it's gross, but just get him the ball. Like, just go into the game saying we got to get this guy the ball 8 times. No matter how we do it, he has to touch the ball at least 8 times, and then if you do that every week, more often than not, he's gonna be fantasy relevant because he's that good. So
I don't know. I mean, I guess it did work out last week, but I actually didn't realize like he had 8 targets, but he only caught 2, and he obviously one must have been a long one to the house because 2 for 83 and a touchdown. It's like, damn, like, I mean, that just shows you how good the guy is, though. Like, he literally basically had one play that made him a wide receiver 2 last week, So
and
I don't know if he actually was a receiver 2. It might have been 3, but I mean, 16 points basically. Like,
and he caught a touchdown week 1 that was basically him playing defense. Yeah, Zach Wilson threw it terribly. So no, I agree. Awesome. Yeah, I agree with that, and he is that good, but yeah, it's I don't know. Well, we'll see what the game plan is. Starting off, Zach Wilson starting off with the Cowboys is tough. So, yeah, and then what do you do with the running backs? I think I'm benching Dalvin Cook for sure. Brees Hall is still. I think they're going to get him the ball more, and so I'm probably going to start him. But are you starting Jerome Ford and Gus Edwards over Brees Hall?
Brees Hall. Yeah, just for the same reason you're starting Garrett Wilson. We saw what he did in week 1 where he broke that long, that runoff that should have been, he should have made it to the end zone. If he was fully healthy, he definitely would have. He just ran out of gas a little bit, but that's all right. We didn't expect him to be looking like that in week 1, so we'll take what we can get. Like you said, they're going to give him more than 4 carries last week. It's just so ridiculous. Like you said, though, it's against Dallas, so it's a little more understandable. This next matchup is
Patriots.
It's better, but it's still not great. What?
Well, no, I was just saying the matchup against the Patriots, but we saw Raheem Mostert light him up.
Yeah. So I don't. Yeah, we just know how the Patriots play in general, especially against the Jets. So, you're still starting him though, because he can make it happen on one play, just like Garrett Wilson can.
Exactly, and start both defenses because they're gonna feast.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, moving on, we got the Panthers at the Seahawks here. We have over under of 41.5, and Seahawks minus 6.5 favorites. Panthers, Bryce Young is out, which actually might be better for the receivers, but I'm still not starting any of them. If I had to choose one, I would still start Thielen, but please, if you're in a position where you're starting these guys, you're in trouble already in this season. So we have to start these guys. So the only guy I guess there's 2 guys. There's Miles Sanders. I'm going to start. Unless there's, I don't know, is there anything against Miles Sanders? I know he hasn't looked great necessarily. He's the RB31 to start the year, but I guess we can talk about it. Are you starting the guys that maybe you got off waiver wires over the last week or two, and Gus Edwards and Jerome Ford or Zach Moss over Miles Sanders?
No. Let's me think about Zach Moss. Oh no, he's playing Baltimore. That's right. No, I'm not starting any of those guys over Miles Sanders. I'm not super excited about Miles Sanders. I'm less excited than I was the last few weeks. But you know what? They're gonna use him. Who's the back? Oh, it's Andy Dalton, huh? Who's the back for Carolina? I think Carolina's probably going to look a little better than they have the last couple of weeks. With Bryce Young, he hasn't looked terrible, but just the whole team has kind of looked a little disheveled, and it's kind of funny that you brought up Adam Thielen, because it's I think you can start him as a flex, if you're really desperate. Obviously, you're not doing well if you're starting him this soon, but 88% snap share, like you said, he's out there, man. So he's got an opportunity, as weird as that is.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair to bring up for sure. I'm just trying to look at what he has done.
He had a good game last week because he had a touchdown, but he had 9 targets last week. But week 1, only 2 targets. I don't know what was going on there. Bryce Young's very first game. I think he'll be a viable option again with Andy Dalton starting this week and probably next week. It sounds like already they're talking about Bryce Young being out multiple weeks.
Yeah.
We don't know what his tendencies are going to be. I guess towards if he's going to go after Thielen or Mingo or what he's going to be throwing it more to Miles Sanders But overall, I think Thielen is a desperation flex guy that you can pull off the waiver wire and start if you just lost your flex.
Here. That's fair. I think I would actually start Thielen over like all the Packers guys, to be honest. Like,
Yeah, I would.
Maybe Christian Watson over Thielen. It's tough to start Christian Watson or Thielen over Christian Watson, but I think they're going to put him on a pitch count, just like we saw with Romeo Doubs. But we also saw 2 touchdowns from Romeo Doubs in his pitch count game. So, but I would, so yeah, that's fair. Like, he is like a desperation flex because I didn't realize he had a good game. I didn't really watch that game.
I didn't either. I just remember hearing about it, and it was like, oh my god, Thielen's relevant again.
Yeah, and he can catch touchdowns. Like, he can definitely catch touchdowns.
Yeah, he did it last week.
Yeah, but yeah, Miles Sanders. I think you're still wanting to start him. He's getting the touches. It just hasn't really materialized. He's still getting 60% of the snaps, which is not as much as we thought, but he's still getting 18 carries, 14 carries, 4 catches, 3 catches. Like, that's a player you got to start.
Yeah.
And then Hayden Hurst, I'm okay with starting him. I know he had a bad week 2, but that was against the Saints, and they've been like, for whatever reason, they've been like the best team against the tight end. Definitely since last year, they were the number 1 team against tight ends. They averaged 5.6 points a game to tight ends. And then they were like top 8 in 2021. And I think to start the year, they're number 1. Yeah, they're number 1 to start the year this year. So just keep that in mind. I think Hayden Hurst can have a bounce back game. So I'd start him over a lot of tight ends. Like I'd start him over potentially over like an Njoku and a Freiermuth, to be honest. Maybe not Freiermuth. But I might start him over. I'd start him over Ferguson.
Okay, I would start Ferguson, but
just because he's out there. Like, we talked about it. Like, Ferguson was out there all week 1, and then it kind of like it dipped a lot in week 2. And so that's just concerning to me. Like, to me, these guys are very comparable in terms of like their skill, and their skill level. So I'm just like, yeah, give me the guy who's out there 80% of the time, which I think.
Because his snap shares are it says snap shares 53 and 54%, or 53 and 55% for the last 2 weeks. So not as out there as you might think.
I thought it was a lot higher. Yeah, be interested to see. Exactly what those percent. Yeah, that's fair. I'll still lead Hayden Hurst though. I think we'll see what happens with Dalton. So, but we'll move on from to the Seahawks. Like, we're starting Geno, we're starting Kenneth Walker, you're starting Metcalf and Lockett if they play. Like, I don't really know what else. Like, I don't want to start JSN if those other 2 guys play.
No, you can't start him still.
Yeah, and like, if Metcalf's out, didn't you say Metcalf maybe has an injury? Double check that,
actually, that's true.
Just kind of double checking that.
I haven't gotten anything.
Metcalf has not practiced Wednesday. Had nothing for Thursday. I don't know. They didn't update their Thursday stuff.
But
so yeah, keep an eye on that. Metcalf's out. Go ahead.
I was going to say I don't know if I'm starting JSN even if Metcalf is out. Maybe as a flex, at that point. But I'm not sure. It says Metcalf did not practice yesterday, Thursday either. Apparently it's a rib injury. So something he can play through. It's a pain tolerance thing. He's a tough guy, so he'll probably be out there.
Probably. But that being said, I would start JSN over a lot of guys if he wasn't out there. I'd start him over all the Packers guys. I'd start him over Cortland Sutton, Marquise Brown against the Cowboys. Like, I'd go up into that range. I'd start him over Jahan Dotson as well.
I think that's all fair.
Yeah. So he's kind of. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't think you're wrong for starting any of those guys over JSN, but yeah, he's right in that range.
Geno or Russell Wilson against the Dolphins?
Russ.
Okay. I think I agree with you there.
I don't know. It's close. I mean, again, flip a coin, man. Like, I think I like Russ in this week. Like, I think he's like kind of what you talked about, like in the last video. That it could be a shootout.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to keep up with Miami, but I mean, their defense is is decent in Denver. But yeah, I don't know how much Gino's going to have to do to beat Carolina with Andy Dalton this week.
Yeah, that's why I lean Russ just for that specific reason. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's better, but yeah, moving on to the Cowboys at the Cardinals. Start all your Cowboys. I mean, you're starting Pollard.
Yeah, you're starting Dak. You're starting Pollard. I mean, Dak you might want to talk about, but I mean, you're definitely starting Lamb. We've talked about Ferguson, and basically every time we've brought up a tight end. So,
yeah,
low end starter, he's fine. You can probably grab him off your waiver wire in like half of your leagues.
Yeah.
Is Brandon Cooks playing? I know he got hurt or something like that, but
he missed he's removed from injury report ahead of week 3. So it looks like he's going to play. I still kind of want to avoid him. And going back to Dak, let's say you have Gino or Russell Wilson or Goff. I think I'd start all 3 of those guys over Dak, just only because this team just, again, the defense could just, it could be a Giants repeat week 1 where Dak threw 120 yards or whatever it was, not because Dak is bad.
Yeah, I know. He can have a good game and not have a good fantasy game. Yeah, I mean the Cowboys won 40-0 in week 1, and Dak had like 7 points because he didn't throw a touchdown.
Yep.
So
exactly.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I can. I think that just as easily goes the other way, where he at least gets 1 and he's like startable. Like I think you can pencil him in for 250 and 2. Like I don't know. That's kind of what I would expect from him. But I mean, same can go for any of those other guys we just mentioned. So I wouldn't fault you for starting any of them over him. But I'm definitely not. If I have Dak, I'm not going to pick one of those guys up off the waiver to start in front of him.
No, I'm not going to drop like a high-end handcuff. We've seen what that can turn into. Like, I'm not, dropping someone. But if you do have like Dak and one of those guys, if it's Jordan Love or Baker, no, just start Dak. That's kind of how I would roll there.
Yeah.
And as sirens go by, the Cardinals.
Man,
Zach Ertz for sure. Like,
start
Zach Ertz, man.
I think he's the only for sure start. Like, I feel like you want to get away from the other guys if possible. I know it's going to be harder to get away from Connor than anything, but man, you need to get away from him like any way you can.
Let's talk James Conner then. So Isaiah Pacheco, Rashad White, Alexander Madison, Josh Kelly.
Yeah, all of those guys.
All of those. Okay. Zach Moss, Najee, Javonte, those 3.
Zach Moss, Najee, and who?
Javonte.
Oh, Javonte. Yeah. All of those guys too. I think Najee, definitely Najee over him. But I think Zach Moss is like right around where you got to kind of like, you could easily start Connor over Zach Moss, but I'm leaning Zach Moss, even though he's got a bad matchup too. It's not the Cowboys, man. Like, I just don't think Arizona is going to be able to get anything going.
And I trust in that coaching staff, and Gardner Minshew can lead a drive to where, they could easily be down at the goal line a couple times in the game, even if they get blown out, So I could see Arizona potentially not even like crossing the 50-yard line until, deep into the game.
What if they don't get a first down?
That'd be amazing. I wonder how many teams have never gotten a first down. I doubt maybe it happened in like the 1930s or something.
Yeah. I'd start James Conner over Jerome Ford.
Okay.
Damian Pierce. I think I'd lean Pierce. That one's close. That's like he's right around that area. I'd start Breece Hall over James Conner.
Okay.
he's. Go ahead.
I was just saying he's a fringe RB2 like player. What about like receivers like Godwin, Pittman, Nico Collins, Garrett Wilson? Are you starting those guys over James Conner?
Yeah, I'm starting all those guys over James Conner.
Yeah. Although he could catch 4 or 5 balls, there's always that and see what he turns into. And then Marquise Brown, like, I don't think he's a must start either. Like, I kind of want to get out of him if I can. Like, I'll start. Man, it's tough. Like, I'll start definitely Josh Reynolds over him. I think I mentioned that already. But what about like Elijah Moore?
I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like either one. So
yeah.
I don't know. I'd probably start Marquise Brown there, I guess. I'd start Cortland Sutton over Marquise Brown, like, pretty easily. Mm-hmm. Man, I just don't. I avoid Arizona at all costs. Like you said, Zach Ertz, and that's about it, I think. If you can, obviously, within reason.
Yeah, I will say this. Like, the Cowboys, I know it's last year, but they weren't, like, necessarily, I don't think they were amazing against receivers last year. Yeah, they were 28th worst against receivers last year. This year, obviously, they're the best, but they played the Giants and just destroyed them. And then the Zach Wilson first start of the year, like, so keep that in mind. Like, they lost their cornerback Trayvon Diggs, which is a big loss. So yeah, I could see Marquise Brown getting like 6 for 50. And kind of like, all right, he didn't kill me type of week. Yeah. So, but yeah, if you can kind of get out of them. Zach Ertz, though, I would start over like Ferguson I'd start him over like Freiermuth and maybe in Njoku at this point. Like, he's just getting the targets. Like,
yeah, he's getting it done.
Yeah. But on to the Bears at the Chiefs. We got the Chiefs. Yeah, another game. Chiefs are favored by 12.5, which is tied for the biggest, most favored team. Over under is 47.5, though. So Bears, I'm worried about Justin Fields personally, but I'm going to start him. But I'm getting worried about him. I'm thinking about picking up a backup if, like, Russell Wilson or Brock Purdy are sitting out there. I'm definitely going to probably start, even like Jordan Love or Stafford. Like, I'm going to throw one of those guys on my bench, which I wouldn't have at the beginning of the year. But I think he has a bounce back game this week. He basically said, like the coaches aren't letting me be me. And it sounds like he's going to have like a squeaky wheel game himself. So,
yeah. And that's how they started. Like, how bad was he at the beginning of last year? It was like, dude, bad. Yeah, there were people dropping him in super flex leagues and stuff like after week 5, like, I don't know if it went exactly that far, but it was a while before he actually showed up. And it was kind of like, yeah, why aren't they playing more like this? And yeah, I actually totally agree with what he said. It's like, they're not playing to his strengths, like, it's like, why do you have to tell them to, like, oh, maybe target DJ Moore more than twice, or maybe get some design run plays for Justin Fields? It's like, you guys can win games, I swear. It's like, they're just, it's just so weird. Like, so yeah, I hope they figure it out, like, and make these guys relevant again.
Yeah, especially because something's not there with him in his passing in terms of like when he has to drop back and just be a passer. Like, he should not be running the ball only 4 times. And I don't even know if any of those were design runs. I don't think they were. It's like, like the guy needs to, obviously can't just work in the pocket. So yeah, I think he kind of, in this game, I could see him just getting a bunch of garbage time points. So yeah, I'm going to roll him out there another week, but I am thinking about picking up another guy on the waiver wire. In terms of the running backs, I'm avoiding them until this offense gets things together. I don't think like either one of them's had more than like 10 touches. I just can't. I can't start those guys, like, unless like I'm just super, super thin, but I want to avoid those guys for sure. DJ Moore, I'm going to roll out just because I'm rolling out Justin Fields, and I think they do have like at least a garbage time fantasy relevant week. I'm basically starting DJ Moore. I don't really think we could sit him. And he had a good game last week, which kind of saved you from thinking about benching him.
He'll get 4 for 40 on the last drive, and it'll make his line look that much better. Like,
yep. But I mean, last week he showed you what he can do, 6 for 104. Like when they target him. So yeah, I think we're starting DJ Moore. Yeah, on the Chiefs side, Cole Kmet, what are we doing, Cole Kmet? Like,
Ah,
are you starting? You're definitely starting like Ertz and Henry over him. What if you have like
Yeah.
Cole Kmet and Ferguson? Who are you starting?
Yeah, I'll start Ferguson. Yeah, I'll start Ferguson I think the Cowboys are going to have a better chance of being in the red zone.
Yeah. What about Cole Kmet or like Kincaid?
Probably Kincaid for the same reason. I mean, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said. Like the dude, Kmet is getting the targets and the catches and stuff, and all he needs is the touchdown, and then it's like, oh, he's just like every other tight end, basically, that isn't Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, Hawkinson, like more or less. He needs a touchdown to be really good, but you're fine rolling him out there. Don't drop him to go get one of those other guys necessarily, unless you really believe in one of them.
Yeah. On the Chiefs side, Mahomes is a start. Kelce is a start.
No receivers.
Yeah, I mean, they're all like boom bust wide receiver threes for me. Like or flexes, whatever you want to call them. That's kind of what they are. Sky Moore, he boomed in week 2. So if you started him for whatever reason, you got happy. Like if you desperation, like I need big points, you can throw him in there because that potential is there, I guess. But yeah, I actually think Kadarius Toney is intriguing, but
4 targets for Sky Moore last week. It's like, man,
I know. Boom bust,
like,
wide receiver 3.
Yes.
I'll say this though: if Kadarius Toney's on the waiver wire, I think I would pick him up because he's getting like 5-6 targets when he's running like 15 routes. Like that's insane numbers. So if they ever, I forgot about that.
Yesterday, he hurt his toe, so it's like, dude.
Never mind. Well, if they ever decide to use him more, like he could be a smash. But yeah, just avoid all those guys. We don't need to spend any time on those guys.
Yeah.
Isaiah Pacheco, what are we doing here?
You got to start Pacheco basically every week because of the offense that he's on. Like low end number 2 guy, I would say. Like he is their guy. Although like I thought he didn't really do as much. Like I feel like like you have to start him because the touchdown like capability is like right there. I mean, I know the Chiefs throw a lot in the red zone anyways, but I just feel like mostly because of the offense, they're not really using Jerick McKinnon yet, where maybe they did a little bit more than I thought, but they're involving him a little, like they're throwing him the ball a couple of times a game. So I don't really like the usage so far, but he's the Chiefs' main guy, I think, pretty obviously. So you have to roll him out there.
Yeah. I mean, he's like a fringe wide receiver or running back 2 for me. Like just because, 12 for 70 is what he got in week 2. 8 for 23, 4 if he gets the 4 catches with the 12 for 70, all right, now we're talking. Like, so yeah, you're probably rolling him out this week, but he was on the injury report as well. He is limited, did not practice, limited.
Yeah, hamstring.
So yeah, that's always a little concerning. Hamstring stuff, because it could flare up or they could just like not really play him that much. So I'm gonna lean like Jerome Ford, I'm gonna start over Pacheco. Zach Moss, these guys that we've been talking about, Gus Edwards, I think I'm gonna start all these guys over Pacheco just because of that injury concern. If he was fully healthy, I think I would lean Pacheco over for sure over Gus Edwards. Like if you're talking about Pacheco versus AJ Dillon, I'll take Pacheco. Pacheco versus Khalil Herbert, I'm taking Pacheco. Something to keep in mind there, like that hamstring one injury.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, on to the Steelers at the Raiders. We got the Raiders are favored, which I was a little shocked by -2.5. Over under is 43. Steelers. You're not starting Pickett. Go ahead.
I was going to say that line moved, I'm pretty sure, because I thought it was Steelers -1 when we got our sheet or pick 'em. So I don't know. I don't know where my mother-in-law gets her odds from for her sheet, but I thought it was Steelers -1, so I don't know. I'm surprised if Raiders are favored also.
Yeah, I mean, you do get a couple points here and there when you're at home. So when it's close to like a 2-point favorite at home, it's almost like they're saying this is a toss-up game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're not starting Pickett. You're gonna roll George Pickens. You got to roll. He's a must-start in my opinion. I was never a big Pickens guy. Like, not a huge Pickens guy. Like, I liked him, but I didn't think where he was being drafted was justifiable. But with Deontay out, he proved that he's kind of a target hog. So you're starting Pickens for sure. Only 4 catches on those 10 targets. But anyways, you're starting him. Yeah, and then Najee, we kind of said you kind of have to start Najee, unfortunately, right? Against the Raiders. If he's going to hit, he's going to hit this week, right?
He better. And if he does, sell.
Yeah. Yes. Agreed.
Man.
Yeah. And if he doesn't, hit, we're in trouble. We are in trouble.
Yeah. Well, we are in trouble.
Yeah. Jalen Warren, just hold off. Maybe mid-season after bye weeks type of thing. Like, he could take over as it'll get more and more involved, but I don't think he'll completely take over. But Najee's kind of basically a must start. Go ahead.
I will say Jalen Warren, I think you could flex him in PPR right now. Like, low-end flex, like kind of desperation, like a guy you might be able to get off the wire, or like if you just lost, Eckler and I don't know, someone else you were counting on, Pacheco or something like that. Like, if you lose both of those guys last minute, it's like in PPR, he's getting 6 targets in each of the first 2 games. I don't know, desperation.
No, that's fair. Yeah, I mean PPR, he's averaged 4.5 catches. And if he gets 4 for 50, like, that's a solid already PPR floor, and then you get a couple points on the ground. So yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, he was 4.5 PPR points last week, basically. So again, not fun, but desperate.
What about Freiermuth? Are you starting, if you picked up Zach Ertz and Hunter Henry, are you starting him over them?
I'll start those. You know what? I'll probably start Freiermuth over Ertz, just because their matchup. I don't know what. Again, Arizona, man. Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, I'll start Freiermuth over Ertz. I might have said the opposite earlier, but I'll start Hunter Henry over both those guys.
Yeah, that's fair. I think for the most part, you drafted Freiermuth as a tight end, and the reason why you drafted him is because you didn't have to take a second tight end. So you're basically going to be starting him unless, to me, if it's Hunter Henry, I'll start Henry over him. But that's kind of about it. I'm not starting Ferguson, Kincaid, not even Ertz over him, or not even Sam Laporta. Would you start Sam Laporta or Freiermuth?
Yeah, if I had that option, I probably would. I would throw Laporta in there. Like, Freiermuth is going to get more than 1 catch a week. Like he literally has 2 catches for 5 yards and a touchdown right now. So, like, it's kind of weird that he didn't get targeted more last week when the first game that Deontay missed. But he'll be out there. Like, he'll get his catches. But yeah, Laporta over Muth.
And then the Raiders. I think another. I feel like I say this for all of them, but another easy team like Devontae Adams and Jacobs are must starts. Their tight ends are not. Jimmy Garoppolo is not. It really comes down to Jacoby Myers, who had a massive week 1, missed last week. Because of a concussion. I think he's going to be playing. I'll double check that. But let's just say Jacoby Myers is playing. Brian, are you starting him over the Washington guys playing Buffalo?
I'd start him over Dotson. He'd be right in between the two. I'd start God, why am I blanking on his name?
McLaurin.
Yeah, McLaurin. Jeez.
Yeah.
I would start McLaurin over him easily. And Dotson, I think, is kind of a toss-up. But I think we're talking about a flex player anyways, like not even necessarily a wide receiver 3. But yeah, you can take the shot on him. Like you said, he was very involved.
No, he was good last year, and like he averaged more points than I always listed off, but like Garrett Wilson and a bunch of other guys, like so yeah, he was great. 10 targets, 9 catches, 81 yards. Like I would start him over. Yeah, definitely Dotson. Probably not McLaurin. I'd start him over all the Green Bay guys. He is going to play, by the way. He was a full participant.
Yep.
But yeah, I'd start him over the Green Bay guys. I'd start him over Marquise Brown against the Cowboys. Elijah Moore, Cortland Sutton. I don't know if you're there on that.
Yeah, that's fine. Sutton, I might start Sutton over him. I don't know. I don't think there's I would start Sutton over him. We keep talking about that game could be a shootout, and I think he'll be relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about if you picked up Josh Reynolds? Who's starting, Jacoby Myers or Josh Reynolds? As I close my window.
Geez, I don't know. Probably Jacoby Myers. I think I like Jacoby Myers. They're better chance to have a larger share of the pie, I think. So yeah, I think that's actually kind of easy now that I'm looking at. Like, yeah, he did actually. I knew he had a good game, and because like the touchdowns were obviously like a huge thing. But it's again, 10 targets. I like it.
Even without the touchdowns, he had a really good game.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I always look at. It's like if you're getting over 15 half PPR points without touchdowns, like that's a really good sign, obviously.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think he was like wide receiver 2 that week. So
yeah, he was better. He's better than Davante Adams. He out targeted him. And
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, I was just like, yeah, he's better than him. Yeah, that's kind of it for the Raiders. That's it for that game. So we got 2 more for you. Got the Eagles at the Buccaneers. We have the Buccaneers are the underdogs. Eagles are favored by -4.5. Over unders 45.5.
Yeah, I picked against the Bucs this week. Picked against my dear Bucs.
Yeah. Well, we'll start with the Eagles. All these guys are starting. Swift starting. Jalen. Oh, I guess we'll talk about that. But Hurts, Brown, Goddard, Devontae Smith are starting. Are you starting DeAndre Swift, or are you worried about Gainwell? You want to see a game with both of them?
I am worried about. Yeah, I am worried about Gainwell, but I mean, let's think about where we're starting. Like DeAndre Swift, I guess. Like, I feel like he's kind of. I'm trying to compare him to somebody. I was thinking of like Breece Hall and stuff like we were talking about earlier. Like, and Garrett Wilson. Like DeAndre Swift's not that level, but like the dude is very explosive. Like we've seen it before. He can rip off like a big play, no problem. I'd like to avoid him. I'm starting Joshua Kelly over him, I think. Oh, God, Nate, that's close. I'm starting him over Pacheco. Yeah, I don't know. He's a tough one, but I think you're rolling out DeAndre Swift. I think the bigger question is what you're doing with Gainwell. Like, are you like if you have both those guys, which one do you start? You got to start Swift, I feel like.
Yeah. Yes. I'm avoiding starting Gainwell. I think it's for me. It's really hard to see when Swift and his game. Like, how do you go away from that massive game of his? Like 178 yards and almost 30 carry. Like, how do you go away from that? Like I just don't see how you do. I think Gainwell just kind of falls back into what he did, and I think it's kind of Swift's backfield now. Like, I think I honestly think it's Swift's backfield. So I'm starting Swift over like Joshua Kelly. I'm starting him over Pacheco, Madison. I'd even think about like over like Miles Sanders. You probably don't have to make that choice, but I would think about it, to be honest. Like as high as like a top 15 guy. I just don't see how they go away from what they just saw.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I feel like hopefully we'll have some clarity after this week. But I mean, I felt like the whole Gainwell thing was like, dude, they were telling us, like, team was telling us that, like, the coaches are telling us that, like, the way they're using him in the preseason is telling us that. We all didn't believe it. So, and then week 1 happened, and it's like, well, damn, like, should we pay attention to this? And obviously, we still don't know. But yeah, it's definitely a thing to. I would start Swift over Gainwell like this week. Yeah, I do agree with that. Like, but I mean, I'd like to avoid both of them if possible. But I don't know. I think it's too hard to get away from Swift. I agree, but we'll see what the coaches do this week.
Yeah, I mean, are you starting him over like a Tyler Lockett, George Pickens, Amari Cooper?
No. No, I'm not starting him over those guys.
Okay. But yeah, everyone else is basically a start, or everyone that's relevant. And then on the Bucs side, you're not starting Baker, but you're starting Mike Evans for sure. You're not starting any tight end here. It really comes down to Godwin and Rachaad White. So are you basically starting Godwin or?
Yeah. I still got to roll him out there. Like, I don't know. I can't just think. Go ahead.
Well, what if you're choosing between like Nico Collins and Garrett Wilson or Godwin?
Yeah, that's right around where he is, right? Like,
yeah,
I'd still start Godwin over those guys. I think he's going to be just fine. You know, like, I think that Tampa Bay is going to have to. I don't know if they're going to be able to slow down the Eagles too much this week. Maybe their defense always has like some surprises left in them for sure. The Buccaneers defense. So I don't know. I'm still rolling out Godwin over those two guys, but I don't know. I don't think there's a wrong choice between those three, honestly. Like, I think he's going to have a similar target share as Nico Collins. Like, he can easily like make up the difference. Like, we've seen it. You know, Garrett Wilson, obviously we've talked plenty about him with his Zach Wilson problem. So
yeah,
he's right there between all those guys.
Yeah. Eagles have given up, I think, the most points to like opposing quarterbacks. You know, obviously that correlates with the receivers. So yeah, I mean, Godwin's getting 7 targets a game, 5 catches. Like, he's getting that. He's just not getting a touchdown yet, or he's not. I don't know, but it doesn't seem like he's busting off a big. Like, he's 5 for 50. You know, you want 5 for 70 or 80, and then the occasional touchdown is kind of what you want. Like, that's what you want every other week or so. So he's getting like the targets and the catches. Kind of, they just haven't turned into big fantasy points. So yeah, I mean, like, if you're asking me, I'll take Nico Collins over him. But I would start him over like a Zay Flowers, I think. And I'd start him over Washington guys. So like, yeah, I'm like right there. I'm right there as like a top 25-ish receiver with Godwin. And then Rachaad White, he's a tough matchup with the Eagles. But I'm probably still rolling him out there again. Like, he's like a low end RB2. Like, I'll take him over Pacheco, and even like I think I said I'd take him over like Madison. I'd take Joshua Kelly over Rachaad White. But
Yeah.
I'd take Rachaad White over Connor, Najee Harris, or Rachaad White.
I think I'm going to go Rachaad White. Yeah. I mean, that's like basically right where he's at. I mean, looking at his snap percentages, 80% week 1, or 79, and then 72% last 17 rush attempts each week. A couple of targets in the first game, 5 in last week. So it's like, I mean, 20 touches a game. You're not getting away from that. He hasn't done much with it. Actually, last week was better. Last week was a good week. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know how you get away from that, his profile in general. Like, we're not seeing go ahead.
I was going to say what he did last week is kind of what I was hoping from Rachaad White, like 140 yards with like 30% of it coming through receiving, and he's going to be like a really good running back if he does that. So yeah, if he can get 15 carries, I don't know if he'll get, the Eagles' tough defense, but if he gets like 15 carries and 50 yards, and then he gets 4 catches. Baker dumps the ball off quite a lot. He gets 4 catches for 30 yards, and then hopefully he gets a touchdown. Like, okay, like you're looking at a double-digit point game, even if he doesn't get the touchdown. So, yeah, I think Rachaad White's kind of hard to get away from.
And
what he did last week.
He's a little game script proof too, because he is involved in the passing game. You know, he is a 3-down guy. They're not taking him off the field in goal line situations that I'm aware of. You know, like he has no one behind him. You know, the Sean Tucker experiment hasn't quite happened yet, but not that I don't know. He's still a good stash, you know, but I think people were thinking he was going to be a little bit more. Involved.
To wrap that up, the one thing I will say is they were trying to get Chase Edmonds involved at the very beginning. It was like all Rachaad White week 1, and then I think after like 5-6 plays, they brought in Chase Edmonds, and then Chase Edmonds got hurt like right away. So maybe there is a little bit of a short leash with Rachaad White, but at least you got one more week of him at least being the main guy with no competition. So, but on to the last game, we got the Rams at the Bengals. We got the Rams. I still don't think you're starting Stafford, although he's getting there during bye weeks. You know, streamer. He's getting to that point, you know, where he's one of my top streaming targets. But I would assume you're not starting him for the most part. And then you're starting Puka Nacua for sure. You're starting Kyron Williams. I would just get out of Tyler Higbee. The only question really to me is Tutu Atwell and how far are we starting? Because we mentioned it. He was the wide receiver 20 without a touchdown.
Real quick on Stafford. If you have Joe Burrow, you probably, and we have to have an extra roster spot, obviously, but you could pick up Stafford, and if Burrow doesn't play, just start Stafford because they're playing in the same game. So, you know, and I bet you could get him if you really want to wait out the Bengals guys. But we've given you plenty of other ideas on who you could probably get. So do with that what you will. But yeah, so sorry, we're talking about Tutu.
Like again, wide receiver 20 without a touchdown to start the year. He's getting the targets. He's been overshadowed by Puka. If Puka wasn't getting fucking 15 catches a game, like we would be talking about Tutu Atwell and like, oh, like what a surprise, you know, like a top 12-24 receiver without a touchdown. Like I'd start Tutu over Jahan Dotson. I'd start him over Christian Kirk if Zay Jones is playing. I'd start him over Marquise Brown, Elijah Moore, Cortland Sutton. I'd start him over all these guys. I don't know if you're right there with me or.
I mean, I think that's right where he's at. I would start him over Marquise Brown. Probably Sutton also. I don't know. I think that's like right in the range where he lives. I think I'd start Sutton over him, but
I just can't get there with Sutton, man. Like, like 5 targets with no Jerry Jeudy.
What's that?
What'd you say?
I said you're the one who convinced me because you mentioned a couple of times, like, oh, I think this game could turn into a shootout. You know, like, and you just keep thinking about that, like, man, what if he's right? You know, like,
and if he gets the 5 for 66 like he did last week, and then he gets that touchdown because it is a shootout, then you're happy. That's fair. But I think Tutu is definitely in the conversation.
Start him,
wide receiver 3.
Yeah, and Puka, you got to start him at this point. I mean, the guy is just, you know, how do you get away from that? You don't. Just enjoy, ride the wave. Trade him for AJ Brown if you can, though.
Yeah, sure.
Just throwing there in case the AJ Brown manager feels like he's missing out.
Yeah. Kyron Williams is a start, so we already said that. Bengals. I'll say this: if Joe Burrow's out, I think I'm only starting Chase and Mixon, and I would probably still start Higgins, but I would think about Higgins. But I'm probably not getting away from any of these guys, to be honest. Given where I drafted them, I'm like, you drafted Higgins is like in the second round. Like unless you picked up like Puka and and you had other stud receivers, like I think you're just kind of rolling them out. I don't know if you feel the same if Joe Burrow is out, that is.
So if you have Tutu Atwell in this game and T. Higgins and Burrow's out, are you starting Tutu Atwell?
No, I can't.
Okay.
I can't.
Like,
All right, so
T. Higgins is a really good receiver, like he can
Yeah.
just be good with anyone.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, you can't get away from Higgins. Like, I don't know how you would like who you would have. I'm sure there's someone like with like that sort of perfect situation where it's like, oh, I'm flexing like Kyron Williams or something like that. It's like an over T. Higgins.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Fucking Bengals, like, you knew Joe Burrow was hurt. Like, why do you have your backup quarterback as Jake Browning? Like, why couldn't you go out and get like a Joshua Dobbs or Andy Dalton or like someone, get someone as like a competent backup? But here we are. I'm worried about Burrow. Like, Aaron Rodgers had a calf injury. It was back in like OTAs, I think, like in June. And then we saw, I don't know if it's related, but he pops his Achilles. Like, those have to be connected. I'm not a doctor, but I assume the calf and the Achilles are connected somehow. So I'm a little worried, but I'm still going to roll them out there if they're there. So, any last words on week 3?
No, I'm looking forward to actually winning in some of my leagues. I don't know. This better be a good get right week.
Hopefully it is. But yeah, if you guys have any specific start sit questions, leave them in the comments, and we'll get to them for sure. And as always, like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys next time. And good luck in week 3.